The Home Pros Radio Show.
Welcome to the Home Pros Radio Show podcast. I'm Tommy Donovan with RIC Home Inspections and your co-host for the Home Pros Radio Show. We have a special edition of the Home Pros Radio Show podcast for you just in time for Halloween. We've all heard tales of haunted houses or spooky things going on in our homes. We often explain these incidents away for whatever reason. But what about those times when these happenings cannot be explained through conventional wisdom? That's where the scientific techniques used by paranormal investigators come into play. What do they do, and how do they confirm whether or not a ghostly occurrence may be real? Adam Burgess and Philip Caston with Paranormal Investigation Team Greenville joins us on the Home Pros Radio Show to explain, starting with one particular incident that I personally experienced on a home inspection 12 years ago.
Back in 2005, okay, so I have this home inspection I'm doing. It's in Simpsonville. And I get started on this inspection, and again, I had, like I said before, I had this compelling urge just to be done, just to, I usually have that anyway, but in this particular case, it was like, I don't know how to explain it. It was just intense. And then it got to, I got toward the end. It was a split level home down in the it was like a rec room kind of utility area, and I'm down at right outside the furnace closet, and I'm going through the electrical panel, just counting all the breakers and making sure everything's wired right. And I just had this you know how you have that feeling that someone's standing behind you. I'm by myself in this empty foreclosed home, and it was like, it was enough for me to just, turn around real quick just to, what's there, and there was nothing there. And it was at that point where I felt that the most intense, I got to get out of here kind of feeling. So I just got all the rest of my notes together and got out of there. Well, like 3 weeks later, I have another inspection in Simpsonville, not far from there. And the client for this other house pulls up, and he's like, "Hey, you're the guy that did the inspection across the street from my parents' house." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "You know that house is haunted, right?" And I was like, "Get out." And he's like, "Seriously?" And, at this time I was like, whatever. And so he goes, "Yeah, there's a teenager who shot himself in the house back when I was younger. And if the house was foreclosed, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "No one stayed in that house since. People will move in and then they'll just get up and leave, unexplained." And he's seen it over the years. And he said the first family that moved in, it was when he was in high school. And one day the daughter came bursting out of the front door screaming, "There's somebody in my house, there's somebody in my house." She was home alone. And he was like, "What's going on?" And she was like, "There's somebody in the house." And wait, hold on, explain. And he was telling me how she explained and described the person that she saw, which fit this person to a T, who had killed himself in the house. And I was like, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, it was she went to open up the door where the furnace is down in the basement, and he was standing there, and he went, 'Hey.' And she freaked out and ran out. I would have done the same thing.
I'd been out.
Thankfully, see ya. Thankfully, he didn't say that to me. I would have gone through the door. I would have gone through the wall. But what happened there for me was, I'm putting two and two together and going, that is extremely freaky.
I think that's
so.
Key.
Yeah, I mean, it was
two and two together. If you were to call us up and say, "Hey, this is a event that had happened," we would say, "Okay, you're by the breaker box. That's where all that electricity is." And we've talked about EMF fields prior to the show, and they can cause you to feel nervous and scared and freak you out a little bit. That would be my first thought. Was, well, you're right in front of an electric box. But then when you corroborate it with another story that's happened in that same basement, in that same thing, someone else is seeing it, then that's when we start to say, "Hey, yeah, this could be really something that's going on here. Might be something here." Yeah.
That experience made a believer out of me. And ever since then, I've had, this is not fair. I hate it when realtors do this. Tell me if they've done this to you. I've showed up at a home, and realtor's like, okay, so here's the key. Lockbox is over here by the front door. The house is vacant, so you're all set. You can get to everything. Okay. Oh, and by the way, you know what happened in this house, right? And I'm like, what? You know, the homeowner killed his kids and then shot himself.
Yeah.
So just lock it up when you're done. We'll see you later.
I don't need all the extra information.
I'm like,
just
really? You gotta be kidding me. And of course, ever since then, I've had like 3 situations where I've been in a house by myself and I've had a situation like that. Another one was realtor calls to book an inspection, and she's like, well, yeah, the house has been on the market for so long. I don't know why anyone will buy it. And I just made a joke. I was like, it's because it's haunted. And she goes, well, you did hear what happened, right? And I'm like, no. And same kind of story. Somebody committed suicide. And she's like, well, you know, I'll leave the key right out under the mat for you and you're good to go. And I was there by myself for about 3 hours. And I was just like, please don't
come out.
I just want to leave. So, but, tell us about, what you guys do. How many investigators are you?
We started off with 4 of us. All of us were high school teachers and had kind of talked about different places that we went as a group, actually on field trips and things like that. And it just kind of turned into this thing where it was conversation that was starting, and then we decided, hey, let's talk more about this.
Mm-hmm.
We always had joked about going on ghost hunting adventures. We kept saying we do it, and finally I had looked up Blackstock Battlefield up in Union area, and sent an email to Adam about it. And he called me down to his room, and he'd already bought like $400 worth of ghost hunting equipment. And he said, no more talking. We're doing it. Let's stop talking about it. Let's just go. So that's how I got started.
And put up or shut up, right?
He got an old hearse, invested found a fire department.
That's what Bill would do.
So now this was when you guys were working together.
Yes.
At the same high school, right? Mm-hmm. And now you guys have gone separate ways, but still kind of keep together. Now, now, Adam, you're an art teacher, right?
Correct.
And you are
technically an English teacher, but I do student publications. I do the yearbook at Wando High School.
Yeah.
Mount Pleasant. Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, what do the other 2 guys do?
They're both social studies teachers. One's government econ, and the other Hunter's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Social studies, technically.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotcha. So, like, what happens? Like, you'll get a phone call from somebody who, like me, who went through something like this. What generally happens? Do folks notice something strange, and then they want you to come and they want maybe verify whether or not it's something that exists or not, is real?
Yeah, usually when we get contacted, they'll say that maybe something, they've had things cut on, cut off. Things have been moving, or maybe they've even seen or heard, seen a person or heard voices when they shouldn't be there. Not a whole lot of, I just feel uneasy, but we do hear those. I mean, they'll talk about that in comparison with it. They'll say, well, every time I'm in this room, I feel weird. I feel uneasy. And then sometimes we'll be able to show that, well, you've got a lot of electrical appliances here, breaker boxes on the other side of the wall. So that can kind of debunk that a little bit. But for the most part, when they do contact us, it's gotten to the point where they feel like they've had enough crazy experiences that they want somebody to come out and explain it.
And then your process is to interview them intensely enough to determine whether or not it's worth the time to go out there.
Yeah, we'll go through, a lot of times we'll go through either email conversation for a little while, phone calls, and most of the time that's kind of where it ends, either on our part or they just feel like they've been heard. Yeah, that's what a lot of people want. But then if we kind of do some research on the place and really get into it, and it takes a few months for us to kind of really say, okay, yeah, we're going to take our time to come out and take a chance on your home.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, like what you said before is when you go out to a home, your main goal is to debunk it, right?
Correct.
Is to just say, oh, well, here's the cause.
Yeah.
It's not, but there have been those few instances where the unexplained has happened, right?
It's not debunkable.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
I don't know if it is, but he's the English guy.
It sounded good. He's the English guy.
Sure, yeah, we'll make it work.
Well, when you go out to an investigation, explain the process, how it works. What
when
do
we
you guys
actually
do?
get when we get there.
When you actually get there and you get that far with it.
We kind of get there and we walk. If it's a home, we'll walk around outside. Then we'll walk around inside. Just kind of go through the whole process of getting used to the space because we don't know the space. Listening for floor creaks, all that kind of stuff. As I talked with you, if you stand on a floor joist, whatever here on this side of the house, does it move a door on the other side? Those things are things that we're looking for. We'll also sweep with EMF to see about what kind of electrical fields we have in the house to see if there's anything that would be naturally affecting the people and their thoughts.
And you're referring to electromagnetic field reader?
Yeah.
So you're actually using this, is that it? What you have
That's
right
there, up there, yeah.
So you use that to actually measure.
Yeah, exactly.
And the reason why is because electromagnetic fields are known to actually, whether it's coming from something supernatural or if it's coming from an electrical panel or something like that, which can cause it kind of helps you determine the source.
Correct.
Helps you debunk it at the same time if needed.
Because it can make you feel, if you get too high, like especially a lot of people feel it in their basements, and that's why I said about you with that electrical box and you're in a basement, you got all these conduits that are running above your head and you got all this EMF, it can really make you feel uneasy and kind of lightheaded.
Kind of like when you're exposed to a lot of fluorescent light.
Exactly.
Like
Same exact thing.
Yeah. I gotcha. What else do you use? What other tools do you use?
We have a surveillance system that has night vision on that. We set that up pretty much first thing, and then we use a lot of digital recorders for audio. We get a lot of EVP type things, which is electronic voice phenomenon, where they speak in a different frequency range.
Oh, okay.
And honestly, I would say that the digital recorders are probably our best tool that we have out there.
And then you use a radio scanner?
We have, yeah. We've used that, and the idea is that you scan through the radio fast enough that you don't stay on any channel long enough for a lot of signal to come through.
Is this like the same thing you would use like when you listen to a police scanner?
Much faster.
Or
It's a lot faster.
Yeah.
With the police scanner, it'll generally stop on something when there's going on. But with this, it scans through every single FM station for just maybe half a second. And the idea behind it is if something is speaking to you, it can speak over multiple frequencies.
Yeah, you want to get longer phrases that expand over multiple channels, and then all of a sudden you realize, okay, well, this can't be just one voice coming off of the radio station. It's multiple words off of multiple channels. It's the same voice on multiple channels.
You guys have a good video on your Facebook page where you're actually going through that process, right? You're sitting there going, we're friendly.
You don't want to make them mad when you first get there.
No. I don't want to make anyone angry out there.
Yeah. Become friends. You see some of these shows where they try to antagonize them and almost pick fights with them. Like, I'm not sure I'm really wanting to do that.
Yeah, that's one of the questions that I had is, when you're dealing with through your experience, have they been aggressive or have they been friendly or?
I've never felt like there was anything aggressive or angry or threatening.
Neither have I. Like I say, we really take a friendly approach to it, if you will. But we also, that's part of our screening process is if it's something that's super aggressive, is that something we really want to take on? Because we're not exorcists. We don't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you have a ghost? Is he scary? Some other tools that you mentioned that you use, laser grids?
Yep.
Yep.
Like Mission Impossible kind of thing?
It's basically just a laser pen that it has a head on it
that if it breaks, it'll...
Yeah, and the idea is that if something comes across that, you'll be able to see the difference in the plane, where whatever the figure that breaks it. We hadn't really had a ton of success with that. A lot of people are doing things with like a Kinect sensor that's basically just an Xbox Kinect camera that's infrared lasers, and they set that up in their software that they say they digitize figures walking across in front of the laser grid. I don't know yet.
One thing that fascinates me about all this is the science involved with it, because it's all experimental, but it's a learning process is what I'm gathering from all this. When you're going through these investigations, again, we talked earlier about how your main goal is to debunk it, right? But when you do have those instances where something happens, or you can't debunk it, how far do you go with it from there? Do you just basically say, yep, it's real? Or do you then take it to the next step to try to determine, all right, what's causing this?
Well, a lot of it starts with our research. When we're going to a location, we try to find out as much as we can about that location, previous owners, any deaths whether it was on the location or not. Also, we do some immediate evidence review on site. We'll take our computers and we'll upload things if we're somewhere that has power. And if we're there 8 hours, we may spend 4 hours individually investigating in different small groups, and then the other 4 hours we're actually reviewing as soon as we get back at our home base, wherever we are, whether it's set up in a different building or a different room at the location. We start uploading and reviewing immediately. And if we catch stuff, then we go right back to that spot and say, okay, well, how do we heard these sounds here. What can we do right now to try to recreate that within 20, 30 minutes of when we heard it?
Definitely, if we have a place where we feel like we've gotten some good evidence or something that needs to be examined further, we'll return to the location if they'll let us. And that's actually produced some interesting results too. Sometimes we get even better evidence when we go back. But of course, as Adam said, we'll try to take that evidence we got before and see if we can find out a logical reason as to why it happened.
Well, tell us about some of the examples of where you've had some concrete evidence.
Well, for me, one of my favorite places, and almost, I mean, we've been there 4 times, and something happens every time, is I would say Poinsett Bridge, out near Travelers Rest area. And it's easily accessible. It's a historical marker, but at night we've had anything from voices to somebody running up on us in the woods that wasn't there when we shine the lights and examine. So, definitely that's a cool place to go to.
The big one that I heard here in the upstate is in Spartanburg is a cemetery.
Oh yeah, Hell's Gate, I think is what they call it. Yeah, we've never gone up there.
That's enough to make me not want to go there.
Yeah, well, a lot of these places. Some of these places that everyone has heard of, you know, and they're public.
Crybaby Bridge.
Yeah, you got to keep aware that other people know about it too, and it's public, and
people can be messing with it.
People can go under a bridge if they want to and make noises.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have students ask me about Poinsett Bridge all the time, and my first one is, hey, it's surrounded by woods. People can hang out in the woods, make as much noise as they want. I know a guy that used to do that up there. So you know, you got to deal with that kind of thing as well.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Any other investigations you've done around here that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we've done several investigations. I would say, you know, kind of talking about what you guys deal with. There's one building out on 290 that's been vacated a lot, and that I've ridden by and seen a lot of times. And I stopped one day when it was empty. Front door was wide open, and I just wanted to kind of check it out. And this was actually right as we were beginning talking about doing these investigations. And I stopped in. I said, man, I really love photography. This is great. It's kind of late in the day. I want to shoot a few pictures of this place because it's run down, broken windows. And I look in the front door, and there's a lot, you know, there's no sheetrock up on the walls, bare studs. Looks like the construction crew just stopped mid-work and left. And so I start shooting some photographs. The last couple photographs I shot, I get back in the car, and I look, and I've got this big green dot thing. You know, I don't really deal with orbs, but this was massive, right in the middle of the black doorway. And, you know, I've shot a lot of photography. I'm thinking lens flare and all this stuff, and I start flipping through, and I have 2 other pictures, the ones right after it, that it's actually, I haven't moved location very much, and it's now down the steps just beside the door and then further in front of, further to the left of the building. And so immediately I jump back out of the car. I'm like, wait a minute, how did I get this? And I start shooting pictures again. I can't recreate it. So I texted it to Philip right away. I said, hey, look at this. and all 3 guys looked at it, and that's when we were like, okay, this is really weird. You blew it up on the big screen. It almost looks like a kid's head and upper torso. Wow. I was like, man, okay, that's crazy. And then we started doing research on the building, and no one's been a permanent resident for a long time. Got a historian that knew a family that lived in it in the 70s and 80s. He had stories about the place. It had changed hands for $10 one time. And so there was a lot.
That should be a sign of something.
Yeah, nobody wants to stay here.
That's just like that house I was mentioning that I was in. It's changed hands several times since 2005. And, you know, anyone who's there does not stay long.
Years ago, I lived in a house in Mount Pleasant, renting it. This was before I married. And we had another roommate, and I had very odd experiences in there. And that house today is still a rental property, which, if you know the market in Mount Pleasant, you could sell a home in this neighborhood for quite a lot of money, yet it's remained a rental property for a while. So I don't know that that's the reason why, but definitely there's some crazy stuff that's happening.
Wow. One thing that we really haven't touched on is the fact that it's usually renovations or other types of changes to the home that tend to trigger these events. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's one of the theories out there, and a lot of people experience it, is when, it may be calm in a house, and then you come in and you start renovating and changing walls, and if there are spirits in the house, the thought is that suddenly in their world things aren't the way they used to be, so they get a little more active.
You shared with us an article, and this is from this old house, where they give, here it is, several instances where that's exactly what happened. For example, in Raleigh, North Carolina. Let me go ahead and embellish it. A little moon music. In 1970, when Governor Bob Scott moved a massive 100-year-old bed out of his room and into a spare room on the third floor of the North Carolina Executive Mansion, he didn't think it would upset one of his predecessors. But deceased Governor Daniel Fowle wasn't having it. The widower politician had been in office when state penitentiary workers completed the brick and sandstone Queen Anne building in 1891. But he died of a heart attack in that bed a few months after moving in. Shortly after the bed was moved upstairs, a ghostly knocking could be heard in the home promptly at 10 p.m. on a nightly basis. In response to this protest, the bed was returned to what Fowle's spirit apparently believes to be its rightly place, and this put an end to the racket. Interesting, huh? Yeah. So here we go. Something's changed, and the ghost doesn't like it.
Yeah, that's correct.
You've had a couple of experiences where we're around the Augusta Road area, even.
Yeah, there was one a friend of ours brought to us. He's a historian locally, and they were going to move a home on the site. It was an older home, and they just wanted to simply move it from one place on the lot to another. And so he went out to document the traditional setting that it was in, because apparently it was in an Irish countryside setting. It was how it was laid out originally, and the new homeowners wanted to change it. So he went to photograph it, and he brought me this picture back, and I've shared it with you. And I'm looking at it, he goes, "You got to look closer in this window." And I look, and we've seen window pictures and reflections, and we're able to debunk that. We go and say, so I look at this picture, and you can see the edge of the roof line on the outside reflecting through the window. Well, nothing is blocking that edge of the roof line, but in the window, the roof line stops, and you can actually see a woman kind of looking around the inside corner and out at you.
Kind of peeking.
Yeah, peeking out. It's really creepy, and
we've seen the photo, folks. Yeah. It is creepy.
It is.
And so he takes off running in the house, and there's contractors outside the house.
There's a brave dude.
Exactly. There's nobody. Yeah, well, they're about to move this house. It's a safe issue.
There's no one in there.
And she's not there.
I would have been saying,
I got a bad feeling about this.
Oh yeah, be out of there. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
That is, and well, I mean, it's like, you thinking about that concept, going back to even what I experienced in that house, doing the inspection. Here we are in a situation where the house is going through a change, and it's,
Exactly. There's another instance that we spoke with a homeowner and actually ended up doing a full investigation of the home, which had a lot of positive results for us as far as proving that paranormal stuff can happen. There was lots of stories leading into it, and there was a new homeowners bought the home. It was an older home, and they were having all the windows replaced, and they did it over, I believe, a 2-year period, and used the same window contractor for both years. First year they noticed things were going on as they did the ones downstairs, and then they went upstairs and did the upstairs the second year, and contractor comes with the bill the next day after finishing, and was like, yeah, 2 days ago we saw somebody. There was a lady downstairs walking around in the house. We didn't think anybody was home. And then yesterday we were putting the last window in, and I was on the scaffold outside, and my partner was inside, and we were setting the window in, and I saw through the window over his shoulder there was a woman walk past him and was standing and looking at him. He turned around and sees her. She disappears out the door, and they both go into the house and search the house and can't find her. And so they asked the owner, who's the old lady that hides around here?
Yeah.
And it was like, no, there's nobody here. Well, then the homeowner a few months later is at a local gala and knows the previous owner that they bought the house from. And she says, have you seen the older lady yet? And so, they share this whole kind. Yeah, so we go in.
Exactly what happened to me.
And it was this whole thing. And so we said, okay, we've got enough here. There's enough past evidence that we should check it out. And I knew the people that owned the home, and so I felt like it could be legit. And so we went in, and within 15 minutes, it got crazy.
Oh yeah, we were just sitting in their den and just asking questions, had the audio running, and there's a stairwell nearby, and apparently a lot of activity would happen at the top of the stairs, what the homeowners would claim. And sure enough, as Adam and I are sitting there just asking questions, we hear what sounds like a woman at the top of the stairs singing almost, or just like calling down to us or singing, but very clear inside the home, and it's just the two of us there. And so yeah, that was and there was some more that happened there too, right?
Yeah, later on in the evening, Bill had joined us, and he and I were upstairs where, like I said, at the top of those stairs, a lot of activity happens. There's a door into the attic crawl space that's been pulled out of the homeowner's hands, and boxes have been thrown all over the place in that crawl space, and she's heard it. But we're sitting at a desk up there, and we kind of have our back to the desks, and we've got a video of this up that people can look at. And we're doing our EVP session questioning, and we actually hit on some previous homeowners' names there. And as we were hitting the homeowners' names, we start hearing a thud like that onto the whole thing. And it's like, what was that? And we're looking, and all of a sudden, we hear it again, and we hear it again, and we hear it about 5 times. And I get up, and I walk across the room and said, are you speaking to me? And then the wall gets hit right in front of my face. I'm like, oh my goodness. Well, we go back and we review the evidence, and it was pretty cool. And then all of a sudden we realize one camera that's facing us is recording us. So we got another camera on the desk facing the attic door. And every time you hear that thud,
the door shakes?
No, the whole camera moves. The whole camera frame bounces. So we've got physical, okay, this is wild,
That's crazy.
Yeah. I probably shook the whole studio when I hit the table. Sorry.
Yeah, I've got a ghost in here. Well, one more interesting story. This is, again, from This Old House. Betsy Andrews of thisoldhouse.com wrote this story about different homes across the country where things like this have happened and how they're related to building renovations or building changes. This one is in St. Louis. The German-American Lemp family controlled a brewing dynasty that was the largest in town during the mid-19th century. The Lemp's family home was an 1860s-era mansion that was considered a local marvel. It boasted 33 rooms, newly patented radiant heat, and an open-air elevator. Prohibition killed their business. Depression killed the Lemp family. The death of favorite son Frederick triggered a chain of family suicides that felled William Jr., Elsa, and Charles Lemp. After the last Lemp son died of natural causes, the place became a boarding house. And in 1977, renovations transformed the home into a restaurant and inn, but not without difficulty. Ghostly barking, piano music, slamming doors, burning sensations, and faces in the windows soon materialized. The place was so spooky that several construction workers fled the job site. That's one way to get rid of your contractors.
Yeah, and that's one of the most famous hauntings in the country, actually. A lot of these, if you watch paranormal shows and things like that, almost every team's been out there to do that. And you can go visit and take tours of the mansion now.
Wow. That's probably why the ghosts like it. It says in here they had an elevator. Yeah, I bet the ghosts like that.
I'm sure.
Yeah, because it lifts their spirits. So tell us real quick, if folks want to get a hold of you guys, how can they do it?
Probably going to our Facebook page is the best way. Our like page, and you can send us messages there, and we'll go from there and just hear your experiences, and we might be able to just kind of explain it away, or maybe just help you with that. Just figure out that it might be something logical in the home, and but other than that, we'll see what's going down, and maybe see if we need to come out and pay you a visit.
Special thanks to Adam Burgess and Philip Caston with Paranormal Investigation Team Greenville, who are willing to share their experiences with investigating paranormal events in homes right here in the Carolinas. To get a good look at that photo of the woman in the window, click on the link included in the show description of this podcast. Adam circled her ghostly appearance in the photo to make it easier for you to spot. Check out that photo. It'll leave you speechless. If you've had any similar experiences worth sharing with the Home Pros, please don't be speechless. Contact us through our website at homeprosradio.com or email us directly at ask@homeprosradio.com. We'd love to share additional stories in future episodes of our show. Thanks for listening to this special extended Halloween version of the Home Pros Radio Show podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and also leave a review so we can share your comments with others who can benefit from our program. We hope you have a thrilling Halloween, and we'll look forward to having you join us next time.
Thanks for listening to the Home Pros Radio Show. Meet more home pros at homeprosradio.com. There, you can also catch full episodes of our show, along with additional information to ensure that your home is in perfect shape. It's the Home Pros Radio Show, brought to you by Prime Lending, home loans made simple. The Home Pros Radio Show, online at homeprosradio.com or on the radio at 94.5 WGTK, The Answer.